Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the MLB offseason review. I am Lucas Dorton. I am not joined by Nick Duckett. I am joined by Jackson Key. The team that we're talking about today is the San Francisco Giants, if you already could not tell by the hoodie that Jackson is wearing. So, Jackson, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
Not too bad. It's always good to talk some baseball, especially, you're a baseball guy as well, too. Why don't you give the folks a little bit of your maybe your baseball playing background and why you're a San Francisco Giants fan?
Well, I've been playing baseball since I was 5. That's 15 years. I'm 20 years old. I'm currently playing at Bethany Lutheran Mankato, which you attended, you
Yep.
know. So I'm a Giants fan. I grew up in the Bay Area. Originally, I disliked the Giants because I was not a big fan of Barry Bonds when I was 7 because I heard the word steroids and cheating. And I was like, no, not so. I can't be associated with that. But as soon as he left and then Tim Lincecum joined the team, that's when I really started watching because when I was 9, I was really big into pitching. Thought I would want to be a pitcher the rest of my baseball career. But that didn't work out. Turned into a catcher, and then started watching Buster Posey. That made it even more interesting for me, and just fell in love with the entire team off those two guys.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, Buster Posey, especially as a Rockies fan, I see him all the time being in the same division as the Giants. That guy is an absolute beast. So, catching, is that your preferred position, or do you play anywhere else too on the field?
I play first base, but I would always prefer to be behind the plate. But you can't always get what you want. You got to do what you're best at. Sometimes you're better at one position than you are at the other. So
Absolutely. Now, recently I found out that you have a pretty neat opportunity with a team called the Solano Mudcats. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, that's a summer ball team I get to play. I'm going to be able to play with this summer. They're about 45 minutes from where I live back home in California. It's a pretty competitive summer league. It's a California collegiate league, so a lot of D1, D2 guys. Some of the teams even only accept D1 players, nothing below that. Really competitive. So I got a recommendation from one of my coaches to go play there, and that helped me get on the team. Being a D3 guy, it's kind of harder to get into the more competitive stuff like that, but it's a really exciting opportunity, and I'm really pumped for it.
Well, that's super cool. Definitely going to be keeping tabs on that to see how you do. I'm sure you'll ball out there. So we'll have to see how that goes. Definitely maybe check back in the future, see how that's going for you. But anyway, we are talking about the San Francisco Giants. That is why we have you on today. So a little bit of looking back at last season, the Giants finished 77-85, third place in the NL West. Really was not a whole lot going right for you guys this last year. I guess if you had to break down last season, what are some things you would use to talk about it?
Well, the first thing I would say is it went better than I thought it would. Honestly, I thought they were gonna do a lot worse. One of our biggest problems that's been for years is the power. There's nobody on the team that has any power. Our home run leader was 21 home runs. I believe he had like 70, maybe 80 RBIs. That was Kevin Pillar, which the Giants didn't re-sign. Talk about that later. And then we also didn't have our starting rotation at the beginning of the season. Bumgarner took one off the hand in spring training, so that put a deficit in our rotation. And definitely the bullpen hasn't been what it was in the last years when we won it. That was a big key of why we were so good was the pitching, and that's just not there anymore. So, pretty mediocre.
Pretty mediocre. And I know you are definitely, a lot of times with sports fans, they aren't as critical with their teams. They really don't look at the bad parts of it. But I think to be a big fan of your team, you have to be willing to be critical. And I think that's definitely what you're doing right now. There's a lot of pieces I'm sure they could do to get better. But if you had to upgrade maybe at any certain position, what would it be for San Francisco?
Well, looking at the roster right now, they don't have an outfield particularly. The only guy that got out there that's of any interest really is Mike Yastrzemski. He played half a season. He hit 21 bombs for us, so I'm excited to see what he does this season. Got a lot of potential. But our biggest hole right now is probably our starting rotation. We picked up Kevin Gausman. Not sure how to say his name, but we picked him up which was a decent pickup, but we just don't have anything solid in our rotation. You know, Cueto wasn't there last year. Samardzija's really hit or miss. We had a lot of guys. We had Tyler Anderson. We picked him up, but he's not that good. So we had a few guys that had to rotate in and out of the starting position there, and we couldn't get anyone solid. Samardzija gave us an okay year. Cueto did all right for the games he was back. Tyler Beede was okay, but just nothing was there for us this year.
You know, and sometimes that happens. Obviously, the Giants have had many successful years. Obviously, winning those 3 World Series every other year, that was extremely impressive. I feel in baseball, and Jackson, you can agree or disagree with me on this, but I feel in baseball, amongst every sport, I would say it's probably the hardest to have a dynasty in. Just because you can have a World Series team one year, as you saw in 2010, 2012, and 2014, but then the years after that, you kind of fall off and it falls off the tracks. So would you agree? You think baseball is probably the hardest sport to build a dynasty in?
Yeah, it's definitely probably the most volatile sport when it comes to playoffs and winning. You can have winning teams, but like the Yankees, they make it a lot, but they haven't won the World Series in a few years. So it's definitely comes down to how you play in October. Getting there is the first part, but you're a completely different team when it comes to October.
Yeah, 2009 being that last year that the Yankees did win the World Series. So definitely a little bit ago for sure. So let's talk about this offseason. You guys, you haven't really got a lot of players. You've really let some big guys go. Probably the big names being Kevin Pillar and Madison Bumgarner. So as a Giants fan, which one are you more upset about that the Giants did not try and bring back? Or maybe they're both on the same level for you.
You know, I was kind of expecting the Giants to get rid of Bumgarner here. You know, our new president of baseball operations, Farhan Zaldi, he's trying to rebuild the team. He's going with all the young guys. But what I was really shocked is that they didn't sign Kevin Pillar, really the only guy with a lot of production for us last year. And especially since they're coming out with statements like, we're trying to rebuild our outfield in this young outfield. You need a veteran guy out there to help these guys, you know, command center field. You know, Yastrzemski's been in the minor leagues for a while, but he hasn't had the same experience as Kevin Pillar does, and I think that was a pretty big mistake, not getting a veteran outfielder out there to trying to move up these young guys, especially considering that only 1 or 2 of them has actually had some decent success at that level so far. Definitely Yastrzemski. He's going to be a starter for us this year. The rest of the outfield's kind of hit or miss. Alex Dickerson did pretty well for us. Austin Slater, I like him a lot, but he didn't perform last year. Chris Shaw, pretty disappointing in what he's got. So who's going to be in right field this year right and left this year is going to be a coin toss. Probably a big rotation of guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Regardless, you know, Bumgarner or Pillar, you know, Pillar definitely personally, I didn't think he was going to play as well as he did with the Giants. I don't know if you were too surprised by how he played. I did not think he was going to do as good as he did, though.
No, I thought when we first got him, I thought, okay, that's a decent pickup for center field. That fills a hole for us, right? I thought it was all right, you know, pickup. At first, they traded, which I don't think they should have traded. They traded the backup second baseman that we had, Alan Hansen. He was a good ball player, you know. He's a left-handed hitter too, which we don't have a lot of in the lineup that's really consistent. So I thought that was a mistake, was trading him away, but it turned out to be a pretty good trade for us. You know, we got a lot of production out of Pillar. Definitely a fan favorite, very fun to watch. I know how some people say, oh, he is always making diving plays because he's not fast enough, but either way, that brings people to the ballpark, that makes it exciting. I watch Kevin Pillar, and I'm always expecting him to rob somebody of a home run that game.
Yeah, definitely one of the better defensive outfielders. Maybe you could make an argument for the best if you really wanted to, defensively wise in center field. The guy is one of the best gloves and has a huge baseball IQ when it comes of knowing where to read the ball, really runs a good route to get to the ball. So that's a huge plus for sure. Now, we did mention, you know, Madison Bumgarner did end up leaving, going to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Were you shocked? Now, you say you weren't too shocked that he left. Were you a little bit surprised that he stayed in the division?
No, I wasn't surprised that he stayed in the division. Watching Bumgarner the last few years, and knowing a little bit about him personally, I knew that he did have a ranch in Arizona, so that's a big part of why he wanted to be there probably. But I'm not surprised the Giants traded him. He was on the trading block. He's probably their biggest name, and if they're in the rebuilding stage, they should have traded him, honestly, if they were thinking about rebuilding to get some key minor league guys, which I think was a mistake if they were going to not re-sign him and give him the money he wanted. But him staying in the division is not surprising at all. He's played in that division his whole life. He's very competitive, great competitor. Seeing him in Arizona Diamondbacks uniform is going to be kind of weird, but yeah, I hope he finds success there. I'm still going to follow him, keep tabs on him. Just a fun guy to watch.
For sure. I guess as far as Giants fans go, I kind of already have an idea of what your opinion on him is. But if Bumgarner, when he does come back to San Francisco and pitches, how do you think his ovation is going to be at the Giants? You think it's going to be a lot of people booing, or you think a lot of people are going to really appreciate for what he was when he was there?
No, in my experience, a lot of Giants fans, they don't really boo. They're there to have a good time. He's definitely going to get one hell of an ovation when he comes back. How long? It's going to be pretty long, I think. I think it's going to be kind of ridiculous a little bit because everybody loved him. Giants fans aren't one to go around and start hating someone because they chose that they wanted to be somewhere else.
Yeah, right. Well, that's really cool to see. A lot of times in sports, especially if a big name player leaves a team and kind of goes to a rival, especially in the same division, normally that doesn't look too well. Bumgarner had a lot of huge memories for the Giants. Will you remember him more in his time with the Giants for his postseason pitching success or his bat?
Oh, that's a tough one. When I think of Bumgarner, I just think of it's got to be the postseason pitching. It's fun to watch him hit, just swing as hard as he can. He's always trying to drive that ball out. It's really great. But just the 2014 World Series, that entire playoff run, that was ridiculous. You could not touch the man.
I remember specifically about that when you guys were playing Kansas City, is that I believe Bruce Bochy said, and maybe you can confirm this, that essentially it was the last game, and if the Giants even got a 1-0, 2-0 lead, and it was only the fourth or fifth inning, that they were probably going to bring in Bumgarner to try and pitch. Is that true?
That is true, yeah. Man's definitely got a lot of stamina. I think that's what made him so great in the postseason is that he got that little bit of extra competitive edge, pushing through a little bit of pain, probably a little bit of soreness. But he does that during the regular season anyways, and that just the extra competitiveness, I think, brought him to a whole new level.
Absolutely. Now, as far as Buster Posey goes, obviously at one point, I don't know about the best player in baseball, definitely the best catcher in baseball, one of the better players in baseball. What is your, if you're the San Francisco Giants, what do you do with Buster Posey? Because I don't think you're going to be winning anytime soon with him. Do you dare trade him, or do you hold on to him just in case maybe they do make a run?
Give me a second here to look up his contract, but I'm pretty sure I believe he signed through the 22, so I don't think they're going to trade him this year. Like I said, they don't have any big names left. That's really the only fan favorite that's really left out there. There's Brandon Crawford, but he's not nearly as big as Posey was. MVP Posey, all the merchandise and all the marketing they have with Buster Posey. I think they're going to try and keep him. They're going to trade him. It's definitely going to be in the last year of his contract. But one thing I'd like to see with Buster, or what they should have done years ago with Buster Posey, was move him to first base. His bat was definitely the most valuable thing we had about him. We had a lot of good backup catchers who played good defense. His production numbers got so low that our backup catcher last year, Stephen Vogt, he hit better than him and played less games. So we really need his bat back. He was talking about how he's going to change his swing, which I think is good, because I've personally noticed as a baseball fan watching a lot of baseball is that the guys with these big leg kicks and these big swings a lot of the time, if you got too complicated of a swing, it's hard to keep up once you get older, especially if you're having hit problems like he was. I just think he would have been a much better asset to us at first base all these years. Brandon Belt, I don't like Brandon Belt very much. Not a big fan of him. So I think we should have traded Brandon Belt while he was still hot on the market a little bit more potential. Not leveled out as he has, but I really hope to see Posey come back this year, keep playing that good defense if they're going to keep him at catcher, and hopefully his bat comes back. But if his bat doesn't come back, I don't see him playing much past his last year of the Giants, really.
Which is really unfortunate too. You talked about the beginning of this guy's career. Was he now? I can't remember. Was he around? He was around for the 2010 World Series, right? He was a rookie.
Rookie of the year there in 2010.
Okay, yep. So rookie of the year, won 3 World Series, has won an MVP. I believe he's won a couple Gold Glove awards and some Silver Sluggers, if I'm not mistaken, too.
Right.
I mean, you talk about the stuff that the guy has done. Maybe besides the last couple of years, leading up to the last couple of years, he's putting up stats and awards that people that play their entire lifetime don't even reach. He won 3 World Series before he even hit his decline. And some people don't even get to a World Series, and he won 3 of them. So it just really does go to show how important of a player he was for the Giants.
Right. He's definitely a key piece. He came in clutch a lot of times. He was that guy you wanted up there in a big situation every time. Stay calm, level-headed. He would get the hit that you needed. But now, I don't know if the Giants even ever actually asked him to move to first base because that's his secondary position, but I think they should have a long time ago when they started seeing the decline in his hitting. And it just goes to show that there was obviously something wrong there because of the hip surgery he had to go through this offseason. He only played 114 games, hit 5 home runs, 38 RBIs, I believe. Nothing big at all, not really helping out. His defense is still good, but not to the caliber it was. So I think if he can get his bat back on track, he really needs to think about if he wants to stay in this game longer than a few more years, that he should move to first base.
Now, it did come out. You guys do have a pretty bright future. I believe MLB.com came out with their top 100 list, and if I'm not mistaken, the Giants had 3 or 4 players on that top 100, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. So the biggest one they keep talking about is Joey Bart. He's kind of looking like the next Buster Posey, really, is what they're hoping he's going to be, which would be good for us. But, Buster Posey, I really don't want to see him go. I grew up on that guy, favorite player. He's really what made me want to be a catcher. So, but if he comes up, Buster is either going to have to move to first or move on to a different team if he can. But we definitely need a younger catcher if we want a guy starting every day. If we want some output, Joey Bart's looking pretty decent for us right now. Now, I don't think he's going to be up. They invited him to spring training this year. I believe they invited him last year. I don't think we're going to see him in the big leagues for another 2 years at least. He's got some time, needs some time to develop a little bit more. Hasn't played that many games down in the minor leagues, but his bat's looking pretty good. He's a good defender as far as I've seen. So excited for that.
Yeah, that'll be big. Obviously, the Giants were a team that when they were winning and they were really putting up big numbers, their farm system wasn't really a thing. They relied heavily on the major league players that they already had on the roster. Is that something that you kind of noticed as an issue early on when you guys were winning?
Well, when we were winning, a lot of guys, our key players, were brought up through the farm system. Say 2010, we had Posey, there was Belt there was Bumgarner, a lot of homegrown guys. They've always been pretty big on the homegrown stars that we have, but a lot of the key pieces that we needed filled in for those years were major league players. Hunter Pence, to name one. We had Aubrey Huff there for a little bit. We had second base for the Giants is just not a good place. I think it's cursed personally. Since I've been a fan since I was about 9 years old, I've seen 3 different second basemen rotate in and out due to injuries, career-ending injuries. Started with Freddie Sanchez in 2010. 2012 they had Marco Scudero. At that point they had Joe Panic, but he was kind of a backup guy. And then 2014 they ended with Joe Panic. But these guys, they just keep getting hurt there at second base. It's a hard position for us to keep locked down. But we definitely need a little bit more in our farm system. That's why I was talking about earlier. We should have traded Bumgarner for, if that's the Giants are trying to do, is rebuild the farm system. Should have gotten some key guys for him. But our farm system right now is not looking too hot. We got a few good guys. I know they've made some acquisitions. Hopefully those will turn out. But right now it's not looking too hot. It's beginning stages of a rebuild, definitely, for sure.
So going back, you talking about the second base position there, with it being cursed. You being a San Francisco Giants fan, is there a certain route that you want the Giants to go? Is there a certain guy that you want them to maybe try and get, or do you think you try and maybe play with the farm system and see if anyone shines there?
Well, they actually had two guys they brought up last year, kind of platooning after they got rid of Panic. It was Mauricio Dubon and Donovan Solano. They put up some decent numbers for the games they play. They both played about 30 games, hit about 5 home runs, I think 20-something RBIs. So I would like to see them get more of a chance this year, see what they can really do in a full-length season, because they were looking pretty good. But for right now, I think they should stick with the farm system, because if we're going to trade for anything, it's not, we don't need any more big league players. We need, because they're trying to rebuild the farm system, like I said, we need minor league guys, we need prospects. We need to look at the future if that's what the Giants trying to do right now.
And the future is huge. You talk about baseball and really any sport in general. If you have a lot of solid guys coming up, now baseball is really the only sport where you have a truly minor league system, with players being developed coming out of high school, coming out of college, being developed and coming up. So that's definitely big time. If you can develop a solid farm system, you can do a lot of really, really solid things. So right now we're in the offseason. Is there any certain guy right now? Obviously, a lot of the big names have been taken off the board. But is there any certain guys that, as a Giants fan, you think they should maybe try and key on and maybe try and get before the season starts?
Definitely. There's one, the Giants, it's been rumored that they're looking at him. It was Nicholas Castellanos from the Cubs, right fielder. I think they should pick him up. Like I said, they need a veteran outfielder if they want to bring up all these new guys, kind of protege them a little bit. But I'd like to see them get him. But if not, there's not anyone I could really think of on the market right now that's really left that would be worth the Giants getting. They picked up a few guys, which I'm not sure why, just to fill up roster spots. So it's a complete and total utter rebuild. I'm not looking at them having a winning season for probably another 4 years at least. If they do have a winning season, it's going to come out of left field. So
yeah. So I guess a pretty solid segue then to get into the next part of the show. How do you see the Giants finishing next season?
I talked to you about this a little bit earlier. I honestly, looking at what they have now with the pitching and the bullpen, they got some decent guys in the field and some decent hitters. If they had better pitching, I think they definitely have a winning record. But right now, I'm thinking they lost. What did they lose last year? You said it earlier, about 85 games. Lost 85 games. I'm looking at them probably losing close to 100, if not more than 100 this year. Because looking at what I saw last year, the constant rotation and flow of guys, not really key solid pieces in the pitching rotation, it's just not looking good.
Now, this is going to be the first year in a while that Bruce Bochy is not going to be in that Giants dugout. How big of a loss, obviously him retiring, but how big of a loss is this truly for the Giants?
It's a big loss, definitely, but I think it's one that was expected and kind of needed in time. With the new president of baseball operations they have, he's looking at an entirely different future. He's looking at all these young guys. He's looking at completely restarting, total and utter rebuild. So, I think sooner or later the Giants probably, I don't know if they would have gotten rid of him, but sooner or later he probably would have left. I kind of felt that he didn't really see a future for himself there anymore. Being this veteran guy, having won all these games, he doesn't want to go through another rebuild. He's been through one or two already in his career. He coached early with the Padres. So I'm sad to see him go, but at the same time, I think it was a good decision for him to leave at this time. As far as his career stands, for him personally, it looked pretty good. But as a fan, it's sad to see him go. You know, it's going to be weird getting used to the new manager there in the dugout. So we're just going to have to see how he does this year with the players.
I guess what will your best memory of Bruce Bochy be?
You know, the probably be the kind of, you know, atmosphere he brought to the dugout into the ballpark. You know, having him as a manager, you know, he's very defensive of his players, but he's not super hot-headed, but when he needs to be. But you could tell he was there for the guys, and the guys loved him. He brought a good energy to the ballpark. You know, he really made it a family. He was kind of like the father figure of the family. You know, everybody respected him, listened to what he had to say, really brought it all together in the dugout there. And that's not something you can really have with all these new guys coming in, and, you know, having people rotate in and out. But definitely the atmosphere he brought to the team, to the ballpark, was the thing I'm going to remember for the most.
You guys now replace him with Gabe Kapler. I guess doing a little bit of research on him, or maybe from what you know about him, do you like this hire for the Giants?
You know, I'm really indifferent about it, to be honest. You know, he's only been at the major league level 2 years. You know, he had okay seasons. You know, he also was a team with the Phillies that don't have every piece they need. They had some superstars and all that. But, you know, I'm interested to see where he takes it. There's not much on him, really, as a manager. I'd say he's only been up for 2 years, but I'm excited to see what he's going to do for the Giants and if he's a good fit. So.
And, yeah, I mean, looking at it from the outside, from a non-Giants fan, I think this definitely could be a good thing. You know, you kind of mentioned the Giants are a team that's rebuilding, going to have probably a lot of young guys trying to find their way in the league. And it sounds like they kind of just want to start fresh. And now with having Gabe Kapler there, they kind of have their guy that maybe he can bring them through the rebuild and potentially maybe bring them to have success again.
Yeah, that would be huge. But, you know, like I'm saying, I don't think he's going to have some success for a while with the tools he's got, because he's playing empty-handed pretty much in some spots there. I'm excited to see what he does with the team, and honestly, I'm going to be pretty impressed if he keeps them to, you know, relatively decent record this year with what he's got. So I'd say, you know, I'd be pretty cool with him, you know, pretty impressed by him if he keeps them under 90 losses. That's just what I'm looking at right now as far as the players and the bench goes in last season. So it's really just it's one of those things you got to see what happens.
Right. So now, as far as Brandon Belt goes, I know, like you said, you're not the biggest Brandon Belt fan.
No,
what
not.
Do you do with Brandon Belt?
I think that they need to trade him. They paid him way too much money to be way too unproductive. You know, they're always talking about this guy's mad power, but a lot of what you see in the big leagues now is hitting into the shift. The shift has killed a lot of guys' batting averages, and if you don't have that consistency with that power and hitting 30 bombs a year, you know, it's really not worth it to have him out there if he's not going to be hitting 30 bombs, getting us some good runs. You know, he does have a lot of power, but he's very streaky when it comes to his power. The most he's hit in the year is 18. You know, that's decent for the Giants, but not what we need from a guy we're paying that much money for and that doesn't get on base enough. He does draw a lot of walks, I'll say, but he also strikes out and rolls over a lot of the time, which frustrates me. Watching major league hitters hit into the shift all day is not fun. So if you're not going to be able to beat that shift with either your power or, you know, be able to hit the ball all over the field, I really think we need to trade him because he's still got some decent potential. There's some teams out there that I think would take him for some minor league guys. We got a pretty good-looking minor league guy at first base right now. His name's Zach Green. He's got some decent powers. I think he hit 20-something bombs last year in the minor league system, 80-something RBIs. We brought him up last year. He only had 10 at-bats, so he didn't get much done, didn't get much of a chance. But I'm excited to see where they go with him, you know, see if they can develop him into something good.
For sure. Now, as far as the Hall of Fame just came out, obviously Derek Jeter, Larry Walker both getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. So you being a San Francisco Giants fan, obviously Barry Bonds did not make it. You kind of brought it up a little bit before. So first question I have is, what is your opinion on Barry Bonds? Should he be in the Hall of Fame? And then question after that.
Barry Bonds, I honestly, personally, I don't think he should be. He, he took the integrity of the game for granted. He just completely destroyed it. He obviously cheated, but I want to know anybody that wants to look at him with the Pittsburgh Pirates and then the Giants and tell me he didn't take steroids, because it's ridiculous to change. His swing changed so much in those 2 years. He got a lot smaller with the Giants because he got so much stronger from the steroids he took. He lied under oath. I just think that, personally, that having that low of integrity, you shouldn't be rewarded for, but obviously that's not always the case. You can be, not the greatest person and still get far in this life. Unfortunately, that's how it happens sometimes, but, he just had no regard for the integrity of the game. It was all about him. It wasn't about the team. It wasn't about the game. It wasn't about playing because you loved the game. He just wanted to be the best, and he was jealous because he wasn't the best. So, seeing a guy like him get into the Hall of Fame, for me, that kind of make me look at the Hall of Fame a little bit less, a little bit not as, great of a thing as it was. But unfortunately, you could still be a jerk and get in and be a bad person. Like we know Ty Cobb got in. He was a known racist. He's a wife beater, all that stuff. So, if he does get in, I'm not going to say I'm going to be super surprised, but a little bit disappointed in the baseball community and world. But it is what it is,
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what's kind of the general feeling? Obviously, you're around, a lot of San Francisco fans kind of being in that area. What's the general feeling about this? Does a lot of people kind of share the same opinion as you, or is it pretty different?
It's pretty mixed. It depends on who you ask. There's a lot of people that definitely agree with me, but there's a lot of people that are like, he should be in the Hall of Fame. Look at him before he took steroids and stuff like that. And he's like, everybody else is taking steroids. A lot of the arguments that don't make sense, they don't really know what they're talking about. They just like the fact that this guy is on their team. Not really. It's mostly people who aren't huge baseball fans and don't know a lot about it that are usually the ones who say he should get in. But there are people who do think he should get in who know a lot about the game and stuff, which I respect their opinion, but I can't see eye to eye with them. But it's very mixed out there. It depends who you ask. A lot of people don't like him. A lot of people do like him. And I've heard the argument if he gets in the Hall of Fame, it should be because of what he did before his career. But, bringing your way to the top by cheating is not something that I think Hall of Fame should acknowledge or even, consider. It just sends a poor message to the younger fans and the kids growing up playing the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you with that, too. A big argument, and I'm sure you hear it a lot of the times, too, that people say is that, well, you can take steroids. That doesn't mean you're going to be automatically better, which I agree with. You still have to be able to hit the ball. You still have to be able to drive the ball. But if you are doing something that is known as being cheating, it doesn't matter if it impacted you positively, like Bonds, or negatively, like we do see a lot of players. What do you think about that?
Well, for Barry Bonds, he was a really good player beforehand. If you definitely look at, I think he started taking steroids in 1999, you can definitely see an upward trend. At the height of his steroids, he was huge. Man was massive. And if you looked at his frame beforehand, it's not physically possible to get that large, get that broad in that quick of time. He was pretty skinny and small with the Pirates. He still had a lot of power. He knew how to use his body well when he was swinging with them. So he already had the other tools, but I believe the steroids just, put an extra 30 feet on that ball, gave him more home runs, made him drive the ball more, made him scarier, made him a bigger guy. Because if you already have the skill to drive the ball and you add more power, it doesn't matter how you do it, naturally, unnaturally, you're going to hit more home runs.
That's a good point that you bring up for sure. So now I guess we go into the part of the show where we talk about Oracle Park now, and it's not AT&T Park. So if there's a fan, if there's somebody going to a San Francisco Giants game, what are some must-sees that they have to see maybe around the area or maybe in the stadium that's really cool as well too?
Well, around the area, I'm not the biggest fan of San Francisco. It's got a lot of problems, a lot of homeless people, but definitely if you're going to go and visit San Francisco, you need to go to Pier 39 where all the sea lions are. They're just hilarious, man. They like to fight each other, flop their chests against each other, flop in the water. that area of the city's pretty clean if you stay along the piers. Got a lot of offer there. You definitely got to bring a lot of money. Things are not cheap whatsoever. Probably one of the more expensive cities, I'd say, in this country. But as far as the stadium goes, you definitely got to go. It's got a lot of cool things to offer. Some things are kind of exclusive. I know they have the Gotham Club out there in right field. You have to have a membership for that, but it's a bar basically that you watch the game from. But definitely check out. They got, like they said, they got the giant gloves, somebody to take a picture in front of. They got the Coca-Cola slide. The trolley is definitely cool to look at. That's another thing from San Francisco. Trolley ride's really fun. Obviously, see the Golden Gate, Alcatraz, all that stuff. And one thing the Giant Stadium has as far as food that's really good is the garlic fries. I get them every time I'm there. Really great, really fun atmosphere to be in. It's just a great park. Everybody's just there to have a good time. It's not super serious. Everybody gets excited when they do something, but they're not going to boo at you if they don't like you. It's probably one of the nicer stadiums to play in as far as a fan base goes if you're an opposing team. I haven't really experienced any yappers or much harassment at all. But any away ballpark you can go out, you're going to get a little bit of that.
Yeah. You said the garlic fries. Is there anything specific? I know a lot of stadiums have specific foods. Like when you go there, they have this that is completely unique to that stadium. Do the Giants have something like that there?
I'm sure they do, but every time I go there, it's probably too expensive for me. I don't want to pay $17, $20+ for a meal. And I'm there to watch the game, so I'm not really looking for the food. But, I'm sure it's as easy as a Google search to find that one thing that they have. They do have bacon-wrapped hot dogs that are a foot long. I don't know if that's their special thing, but that's definitely, kind of out there, pretty unique.
Well, that is pretty cool. Well, maybe next time I'm out there, if you're out there, you'll have to take me to a Giants game.
Oh, yeah, and then you get to ride the BART system, which would be fun.
Hey, there we go. That's awesome. So I guess the final question I have for you is, what is your favorite memory as a San Francisco Giants fan? Or maybe you have a few.
Ooh, that's a tough one. Favorite memory.
Put you on the spot with this one.
One that really sticks out to me is, I believe it was 2016. The Giants made that little playoff run, but it was the first game of the season. Bumgarner's out there pitching a good game, gives up 2 runs. His offense ain't doing much for him, so he does it for himself. He hits 2 home runs back-to-back in both of his at-bats. That was one thing that's definitely going to stick with me for a long time. He's just a competitor all around the field, and that opening day was probably the most memorable for me.
That's really cool. And I thought of another question too, sorry. So that was not the last one. Maybe this will be the last one. All-time favorite player. It can be on the Giants or it can be just any Major League Baseball player.
Well, I'll give you one for the Giants, and I'll give you one for overall. So overall, it'd be, Hank Aaron. I always looked up to him. When I was really young, I was like, home runs. Oh, my God, those are so cool. Just the way he carried himself on the field and, played the game, played hard. And the fact I was always so impressed by how many home runs he hit and didn't cheat, did it just because he could, because he was so strong, because he was the man he was. And my dad grew up a Braves fan. He still is a big Braves fan, but he's more of a Giants fan now. I do like the Braves as well. So, growing up, my dad is a Braves fan. I was looking for somebody to idolize. When you're young, you're always looking for that person to idolize when you're growing up. And Hank Aaron, the way he played the game and approached the plate, that was always what I looked up to a lot. So, overall player, Hank Aaron. Even though I never actually watched him play, I did some research on him. Seen a few old games that they had on YouTube and stuff like that. That's my favorite all-time player. My favorite player on the Giants would still have to be Buster Posey, even though he's not doing that well. Just because, he was the guy that I grew up watching. Everybody has that guy that they grew up watching that just sticks with them as far as sports go. For baseball, it was Buster Posey. I would love watching him play the game. He was always he was so relaxed in everything he did. He was so calm, approached every situation with level-headed, never really got in an argument. He played the game with a lot of class, which I really respect. So he's definitely a big guy to watch for me. Loved watching him catch, loved watching him hit. Kind of, when I was younger, he was kind of the player I wanted to grow up to be. Had some power behind the dish and could play the catcher a lot, play it real well. So, that was really fun for me to watch him in his prime.
That's super cool. Well, that's always cool. You know, you definitely have players that you look up to as a kid. That's awesome. That definitely looking back to guys that played a long time ago too, they really have a lot of respect for as well too. That's pretty cool. So I guess this is the end of the show now, Jackson. Is there anything you want to say? Any final thoughts about the Giants? Any comments?
I hope they don't lose 100 games this year. That's the only thing I have left to say about it. But I'm looking good for them to be, good in the future for 3-4 years from now. Hopefully not longer than that, because that would be kind of tough. But you never know. I'm excited to see what the president of baseball operations, Farhan Zali, has to do to the team and what he's going to do for us. Hopefully he's good in the long run. I'm just excited to see where things go in these next couple of years.
Well, absolutely, yeah. Well, first, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I hope you had a good time. Did you have a good time?
I did have a good time, yeah. Thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we'll have to bring you back on again in the future, talk some more Giants or maybe just baseball in general.
Oh, yeah.
So, is there anywhere if people want to try and follow you or try and reach out to you, maybe talk some Giants, maybe disagree with you with some Barry Bonds takes, where can they find you at?
Well, I kind of keep my personal life a little private, so I'm not going to be taking hagglers out there. So, sorry about that, but I don't want anybody coming up with my Instagram DMs and telling me I'm wrong. Barry Bonds is the greatest, whatever. I don't want to have arguments and stuff like that with people I don't know well. So.
Well, that's all right. They can just send all their arguments to me, and then I'll send them to you.
Yeah, you relay them to me, and then I'll
relay them to you. Awesome. Alrighty, Jackson. Well, again, thank you for coming on. It was a great time. Everybody definitely look forward to share this video, like it, retweet it if you like what you heard. That's awesome. If you didn't like, let us know too. If you have something to talk about Barry Bonds, let me know, and I can pass it on to Jackson. But if you would like to find me on Twitter, you can be Lucas_Dorton, capital L, capital D, if you would like to find me on there. But like I said, definitely share this to all your friends. And if you are a big Major League Baseball fan and are a fan of a specific team that is not the Minnesota Twins or the San Francisco Giants, then let me know. Maybe we can get you on a show too. But I am Lucas Dorton. As for Jackson Key, we are out.